I would explain infertility as...
Infertility is like getting in a pool. You didn't realize when you jumped in the pool that you didn't know how to swim.
The best way I would explain it is a roller coaster.
I think it's really difficult to describe. It's not really comparable to anything else.
Being on a boat.
It's like being in prison.
Getting super excited about something like a kid on Christmas Day and then running downstairs to look under the tree and there's nothing there.
You do watch other people who are like, the goalpost is there and it just stays there and you've got the ball and you kick it into the goal. And in our case, it's like, oh, we don't even know if we have a ball. It's kind of deflated, and then you go kick it, and it's like, oh, well, we're gonna move the goalpost over here on you.
Being in an infinite room that is completely dark, and the only thing that you have other than this complete darkness is your partner who you're next to.
Getting really excited because you have this plan, and then it just kind of not working out that way at all.
I would explain infertility as working as hard as you can towards achieving a goal that you don't know you'll ever achieve.
It's like thinking your life is going to work out one way for your whole life, and then getting to that point where everybody starts to cross over and finding out, oh, that is how it works for everybody else, but not for you.
Let me know when you're ready.
Go ahead, mark it.
All right, sound 6.
That's okay. So I was born and raised in Rochester, New York. I've been here my entire life. Growing up, I had 2 moms. I was also donor conceived. In high school, my mom actually was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. She became very, very sick, and that is when I started raising Emily. So we ended up sharing, my mom and I share custody of Emily, and it was just always me and her. It was always just me and Emily, and I always kind of thought it was going to be that way forever, because obviously having someone with a disability is hard to include someone else in. But who knew that one silly DM on TikTok would lead to the person I would spend the rest of my life with.
Sound 2.
Got it.
She really slammed that.
She really slammed it. Yeah.
Everyone was scrolling through TikTok during COVID and bored, and so I messaged her, didn't think anything was going to come of it. We started talking all the time and
calling each other, FaceTiming.
And then we did long distance for a year.
Yeah.
And then eventually I moved up to New York from Florida. I feel like we kind of talked about all the difficult and like tough conversations from the start.
We did.
Before I made the decision to move up here, just making sure that we were really serious about this. We didn't want to waste each other's time. And so moving up here, we already kind of knew what we were getting into. We had already visited each other so many times that we kind of knew what it would be like living together.
Exactly.
So I thought it was a pretty smooth transition from my end.
Yeah, it was. I'm glad.
We've been super happy since, and just planning one thing after another.
Yeah, one big milestone after the other. That's kind of been our journey.
I'd say initially when I first met you, I did want to have like my own kids. Sarah didn't.
I was very against it, yes.
For various reasons.
Mainly because I had taken care of my sister for 16 years, and I was kind of in this mindset that like I've done my time. I've raised a kid already, and I'm still raising one, and I'm tired. But that evolved.
So then we were thinking about fostering for a little bit. And then I don't know, it just, after we moved into this house and we kind of were like, what's next for us? We really started thinking about it, and the more that we got serious and knew that we wanted to get married, kids just became the next chapter of our life that we really wanted to start a family together. We started doing our own research, just financially, and then just seeing the logistics behind it and mentally start preparing ourselves for the next steps that were to come, like the doctor's appointments and...
But I don't even think we knew at the time to the extent of how much was involved. And then especially if in New York State, there's certain regulations and there's certain requirements. So I think just, it was almost like I wish we had a guidebook almost of like, okay, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. And thank goodness we have a medical background, because if we didn't, I think we'd feel even more lost.
Overwhelmed.
Wouldn't
even know
like what
where
does
to
word
start,
mean? Yeah. It's a very overwhelming process to even, it's daunting to start. So.
Sure. Let me just say the very first step though.
Okay.
What was the very first step
we took?
Because Sarah's very,
I'm nervous where you're going with this.
You just want to tell everybody. You get so excited.
Oh.
So the first step was make an announcement on TikTok.
Well, of course.
We met over, 15 years ago? And we met online. We weren't intending to meet online. We just happened to cross each other. And we started talking as friends for about 2 years. And after 2 years, I expressed interest, and she said she was not. And then 6 months later, she reconsidered.
Telling on me.
And then it was long distance for a long time. And after that, we went to school together and got our first place together and slowly got to where we are now.
Correction. It wasn't over 15 years ago. We would have been like 14.
No, it was 15 years ago.
No, it wasn't.
2008.
Is that 15 years?
That's 15 years.
Okay, well, you're the accountant, so if he says it's 15 years, it's 15 years. I mean, gradually we got more serious about each other. So after dating in college, we were like, okay, we want to make this official. So someone finally popped the question, and then we were engaged for a few years, and then we got married in 2019.
That was a lot of fun. Really fun wedding.
It was.
It was great music, great entertainment. We had all our friends and family there. It's also the only time I'll ever dance is at the wedding. Never again.
That's true. Alex is not a dancer, but he was that day for me. So I appreciate that.
When we knew we wanted to have kids, we just started trying. We kind of assumed, everyone had told us our whole life that, you just start trying and it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. We thought it would be like a month or two after trying, we'd be like, oh, there's the positive pregnancy test or something. Mm-hmm. And that didn't happen continuously. We kept checking, and then there was no positive pregnancy. At that point, I'm just thinking maybe it's just not the right time. Maybe we're just being unlucky. I believe Chardé started to suspect that maybe we should ask someone who might know more.
Yeah, so at that point I started looking into things like what are some reasons that prevent pregnancy from happening? What conditions could I possibly have? And stumbling upon that research, I noticed that I aligned with some of the symptoms of some of the things I was finding. So I reached out to my doctor. I asked her to run some more tests on me, and I was positive for a few. I found out about PCOS before I went to my fertility doctor. So after we weren't getting pregnant for a while, and after getting positive diagnoses for some things, she decided to send us off to a fertility doctor. When we went through IVF the first time, we had our embryos after egg retrieval and fertilization and all of that, and we decided to put in 2 untested embryos, and one of them stuck, which is our now daughter. So we were very ecstatic that it worked the first time, and that, we were successful, that we got our baby girl out of it.
Yeah, when we started discussing a second child, I think Chardé was a little bit more gung-ho about it up front, and I was more like, let's give it a little bit longer of a break. The first time was difficult, and I didn't forget the difficulty. I think she sees our daughter and she's like, oh, well, everything was easy, or in hindsight.
Right.
I don't remember it that way. So I said, maybe we should wait. Let's discuss with our doctors. Let's discuss with the team that got us here in the first place and see what they have to say. And yeah.
And when they said yes, we went for it.
Yeah.
We met in 2011, I think.
Yeah.
We both used to be travel agents, and we both got honored for our hard work with a trip to Europe, along with about 25 other travel agents from all around the world. And so, as cliche as it is, we met in Paris.
And in a couple of days of hitting it off, we decided that we wanted to be together. There was some concern from
Both parents.
all our
sides of the
parents.
family.
But ultimately, once they met both of us, they could see that we had chemistry, that we had a solid relationship that we were building together, and that we were going to be happy together. And that was it.
We still are.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be a mother from the moment I came out of the womb. I think that was just like what I wanted. And so very early days of us dating, I just, we had the conversation, I think, as many couples do, of like, do you envision yourself with children one day? And for me, that was a non-negotiable. Turns out I've had to negotiate it anyway. Nature had other plans. I was diagnosed with uterus didelphys. I think I was 22 or 23. So it was about a year or two before I met Ben. And it was just happenstance. I had switched gynecologist because my health insurance had changed. And I went in for just your annual exam and everything. And I'm on the table and she says, has anyone ever told you have 2 cervixes? No. No one has ever told me I have 2 cervixes. I didn't even know that was a thing. When we see somebody with 2 cervixes, that could mean that you have double of internal structures. And so immediately on ultrasound, she discovered what she believed to be 2 uteruses, which is what's known as uterus didelphys. Everybody is a little bit different with what that looks like for them, but I have 2 full uteruses, which leads to 2 cervixes, which led to a full vaginal septum, which is kind of like if you think of your nose, it's like a little division, all internal. When we started trying to conceive in around, I think it was around the end of 2018, mid 2018, I did, because I had been told at that point that there might be some high risk potential to carry a child with uterus didelphys. So we did, I think around 6 months in, go to see an MFM, which is a maternal fetal medicine doctor, who deals more with high risk pregnancies. And we just kind of got the all clear that it was good for us to try.
For me, and I think the thing for both of us, was that we didn't think about this as being a possibility. We thought we're young, we are healthy, right? This should just come naturally, and that's what we had been taught in our lives, but we'd never been taught about infertility as something that could affect anyone, particularly people who were young and healthy. And I had no frame of reference, and I don't think you did either, for anybody that had gone through this, because no one was talking about it.
After not having any success for over a year, I went back to the MFM and she told us kind of just to keep trying, and I wasn't satisfied with that answer at that point. So I did demand a fertility hormone panel, and the hormones that came back on that blood test kind of indicated that not only did I have these anatomical differences, but that I also was likely going to be diagnosed with diminished ovarian reserve. And because of that, IVF was kind of the immediate go-to. I think that within a week of getting those blood results, I had already contacted my gynecologist and said, where do I go, what do I do, and was given a list of a few clinics in the Bay Area that he recommended. We did go ahead with the first round of IVF. I think it was the end of August 2020, and that round resulted in no embryos to even test or freeze, which was, I think devastation is an understatement. I think it hit us both like a punch to the gut. It's not something that we, from our frame of reference at that point, from people that we did know had gone through it, that didn't happen. I'd never heard of that happening.
It was that IVF is a solution to the problem, right? Not necessarily a continuation or...
Yeah. We never thought we'd do that more than once.
Right. It seemed like this could be the solution, and if that was the solution, then we should pursue that, and we would have the outcome we were looking for.
Yeah. But then we came out of that round empty-handed. And that was about when I felt really low and very alone in the process.
So we met about 7 years ago when I was a freshman in college and Shane had just graduated from college. And he was in Pennsylvania and I was in Minnesota. And I saw a little mini documentary about him. It was like a 10-minute video that one of my favorite actors had made on his YouTube channel. And I watched the video, and it was about the book that Shane had written and the nonprofit that he ran. And I just felt like I really wanted to know him. I was like, oh my gosh, we would get along so well. Like, I really feel like I want to know this person.
She was smitten.
Okay, I was smitten.
Overcome by my charm.
Uh-huh.
My good looks.
Okay. When we first met, Shane and I had talked about whether or not we wanted kids. Both of us did, but at that time it wasn't like a...
Not in an aggressive manner.
Yeah.
We weren't like, you need to have kids.
Well, I was 20 when we met, you were 23.
Right.
So we were just like, oh, like sometime in the future, maybe when we're 30, that kind of thing.
But we were both very open to it.
Probably like 5 years into our relationship, we'd been living together for 3 years. We were like, we have a house, like we're kind of adults now.
We're sort of settled in our very weird career as content creators. Yeah. That was going well, so didn't seem, at a place where we were ready.
We actually could do it.
Even though we didn't feel ready, we were like, are we ready? No.
Are we adults?
Yeah. SMA is a neuromuscular condition I was born with that affects the motor neurons in my body. So basically, my body is not good at growing or maintaining muscle. So I am very, very weak, and I've been a wheelchair user since the age of 2.
So at that point, Shane had been on a treatment for SMA for probably like a year, and we knew that one of the potential side effects was affecting sperm count and quality.
Yeah.
So we started to think like, oh, maybe Shane has this side effect and this is actually causing, a problem.
And when we began talking about that, it occurred to me that many wheelchair users who sit on their balls all day long also have fertility issues. This is something that I've always known, but never really confronted. Mm-hmm. And so all at once, I began thinking about everything in my life that might be negatively affecting my fertility. And so I got an at-home sperm analysis test where you send in your sample.
Good morning. If you watched our last video, you'll know that we were doing something this week that is very exciting, a little nerve-wracking, and today is the day. Do you want to tell them what we're about to do, Shane? Why do you look like that? Oh, your hair. We just woke up.
We're about to. There are so many inappropriate jokes I could do here that I am feeling a bit overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I know that when we edit and put this out there, we're going to be like, wow, wish Shane had kept it a little bit more.
So just why don't you just say it as if this is a business?
Can you put the camera directly in front of me?
Let's use our most business-like judgment.
Hello, my name is Dr. Berthold. Today we'll be extracting a semen sample from one Shane Berthold for science.
No. That was
Nothing funny about it.
nothing funny about it.
We're
but
testing my fertility.
extracting.
We're testing my fertility.
Yes, fertility testing is being done today.
I'm nervous about the results.
Yeah.
I didn't think I would be because I don't connect my ability to reproduce with my worth.
Yeah.
But there's a part of me that's like, well, I don't want to find out I can't.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Some kind of animal instinct that I have to consciously work to overcome.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yep.
I just dropped off the parcel.
Specimen. I know I'll be a little bit bummed if it's not great results, but there's a variety of lifestyle things that I do that can,
Negatively impact.
hinder it.
So there's multiple things that we know we can do to try to improve the results.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not like a be all end all results.
Yeah.
And we're gonna take it and just be done. So.
I haven't eaten a vegetable in probably 9 years. Just kidding. And those results came back very low. Usable, but low.
It wasn't going to happen naturally.
Yeah.
So that's when we knew that. And we were like, okay, so if we want to have kids, biological kids, then we're going to have to go to a fertility clinic and move in that direction.
And I think that first test was my biggest wake-up moment of oh, I actually have fertility issues.
Yeah, I think when we got the results and realized that we would need to do probably IVF at the time, we knew pretty quickly that it was going to be that level of intervention. We had never, we knew nothing about it. So at that time, it was I was oh my God, what kind of doctor, who do we need to call? Where is there a place near us? We had no idea. So it felt ginormous. So we went to a fertility clinic. They did an actual test of Shane's sperm that wasn't a mail-in. So we had better numbers from them.
Confirmed that my numbers were abysmal.
Yeah. But they were IVF is a good way to go for you guys. We think this can be successful and, it should work.
Our first appointment with our fertility doctor to go over options filled me with a lot of optimism. I, in my limited knowledge of fertility, thought that with my low numbers, it would be impossible. But our doctor said, all we need is one sperm. You don't need 10,000, you don't need 1,000,000, I need one. And if we can get one, there's a chance. And it made me feel good that we had a team that was willing to work with us even though my numbers were so bad.
Yeah.
Next time on Fertility Out Loud.
We didn't have a good frame of reference for surrogacy either. We had no concept of why this was necessary. It felt okay, we just learned everything about IVF and everything about infertility, and now we're being told we have to go and look at a different solution that is also connected to this solution, but there's a whole world of complexity around that.
Yeah.
And that was something that we embraced the challenge of, but it felt overwhelming.